Today we're working on section 7.3, finding the slope of a line given 2 points. We have multiple ways to find it, so we'll talk about by looking at the graph, using rise over run, and using the slope formula. On numbers 11 through 19 on the homework, please use the slope formula. All right? So when we graph 2x, y equals 2x minus 3, and we create a table, we set up a table and we choose 3 x's. Of course, my PowerPoint's doing more, so we'll choose all these, and I substitute 3 in for the 2x, right? Usually I have you guys write it and write 2x minus 3 equals y. Oops, let's get rid of that one. And then I start substituting in 2 times negative 3 minus 3. So negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. Okay. 2 times negative 2 minus 3 is negative 4, and negative 3 is negative 7, right? It's negative 4, negative 3, it's negative 7. 2 times negative 1 minus 3. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, minus 3 is negative 5. 2 times 0 minus 3 is negative 3, sorry. And we keep going. Let's do some 2 times 1 is 2, minus 3 is negative 1. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 3 is 1. And 2 times 3 is 6, minus 3 is 3. And I plot those points. Okay? Now, one thing I want you to notice is the space between the 2 points. If I were to go from one point to another, okay, we can check what's called the slope of a line. That's basically the steepness of the line. Okay, we use the variable m. We use the variable m to represent the slope. So whenever I say m equals, I mean slope equals. Okay, and how we figure it out is we count the vertical change over the horizontal change. So that means we're going from one point here to the next, and I'm going to count 1, 2, and then I go over 1. So the vertical change is 2, and the horizontal change is 1. So my slope equals 2 over 1. We also call that a rise over run. Okay, vertical change is the rise, and the horizontal change is the run. You can also call it the change in y over the change in x, which change, this symbol, this triangular symbol, means the word change. Okay, I've used it before. We were talking about the change in percent. So again, the change in the y, the distance going up, maybe this one's an easier one to look at. 1, 2, that would be my rise, and my run is my across movement. And my rise would be 2 up and 1 across. So different ways to say slope. These are all 3 of these are ways that we can describe slope, the steepness of the line. So when we actually find it, you're just writing the 2 up over the 1, and you simplify it, and it becomes 2. Slope is the 2 over 1. Now, what does that have? What is the relationship with that slope in our equation? Where do we see that? Hopefully, you're noticing the 2 right before the x. So we see the slope always precedes the x term. So whatever is in front of the x, that is your slope. Okay? The 2 is is your slope. And it doesn't matter what 2 points you take. We can go, let's see the way they're going. So I went up 2 over 1, or I could start and I could do, I don't know why they're doing the across movement first. Let's not do that. Let's go from here. I could go down 1 unit, 1 unit. I could go down here. That ends up being down 1, 2, 3, 4. So down 5, negative 4, sorry. And then I can go over 2, 1, 2, negative 2. So when I go negative 4 over negative 2, what does that reduce to? Negative divided by negative is a positive, and it equals 2. So it doesn't matter. I could go positive 4, go positive 4 to here, and then, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go over 1, 2, positive 4, positive 2. My rise is positive 4, my run is positive 2, and that equals 2. Okay? So don't ever do the horizontal movement first. We always do. I don't like the way that my PowerPoints are, but it's going negative 4 down, negative 4 down, and negative 2. So if you're doing negative, negative, then it should be. It doesn't matter. I could go from here down to here. Let's take it one more time. I could go here, which would be all the way down here, and then all the way this way. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, negative 8, and I'm going across. That's supposed to go through this line here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4. So negative 8 over negative 4 will always reduce. Okay? It always reduces. So the slope is the steepness. We can refer to the slope as the vertical change over the horizontal change. We can use these symbols, change in y over the change in x. We can use the language rise over run. It reads rise over run. But mostly when I'm looking for the slope, I'm looking for that number. And either it's a fraction or it's a whole number. Now, what I want you to notice is the 2 that comes before. The 2 that comes before the x is the slope. And notice where it crosses the y-intercept, the y-axis is at negative 3. So in this equation, we have everything we really need to do a shortcut graphing. We'll learn that tomorrow or the next day. Okay, so notice my y-intercept is here in the equation. That's where that number crosses. All right, so finding the slope of a line. Finding the slope of a line. We go from any 2 points. I usually like to rise first. I'm going to start at the lower one. Doesn't matter where you start. We could start at the upper one. So notice I'm going to count my graph lines, and it's a rise of 1. And it is a run of 1, 2, 3. And we leave it like that. We don't convert it to a decimal. We leave it as the fraction. Okay? Rise over run. My rise is 1. My run is 3. And they're both positive. When you go up, it's positive. When you go down, it's negative. When You go to the right, it's positive. When you go to the left, it's negative. If I had gone down, -1, notice I would have had -3, because I'm going to the left. And then it would be -1 over -3, which reduces to 1 over 3. Because a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. Okay. All right, pause and you guys try the next one. All right, let's check our work. We're rising 3 and we're running 2. Petting my dog, she just walked up. So my rise over run is 3 over 2. Do not convert that. Leave it as a rise over run of 3 over 2. Okay, let's try it again. Doesn't matter which one you start from. Now, we're going to rise. If I want to, doesn't matter, we can start from the first one on the left. And I'm going to rise -1, right? -1. And now I'm going in the positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over +4. Now, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Okay? So we have a negative slope. Notice negative slope starts high. We read a graph from left to right. So it starts high. Imagine this is your money. Okay? This is your money and we're over here. This is our starting point. Your money is ending low. So in that case, it would be considered a negative slope. Okay? All right, try the next one. Now check your work. You should have had -4 over +2, which reduces to -2. A slope of -2. So if it reduces to a whole number, we reduce it. But if it does not, then we leave it reduced improper. And this is mandatory for slope because we need the rise and the run. Okay, let's try the next one. Now check your work. Rise 2, run 5. Now if I'm, okay, let's try another. Now check. Let's rise 4, -4, +1. Now, what does that reduce to? -4. Okay. Now, algebraic method, utilizing a formula. Okay, when you do this tonight, I need you to write the formula each time for each problem. So I write the, basically the way we get our rise is we look at the change, the vertical change, okay? It's the vertical change, the change in the y's over the change in the x's. The first thing I do is I name each point, point 1 and point 2. Okay? And then I give each point, I just name it. The first -2, we'll call that x1, and -3, we're going to call it y1 because it's the first point. And we're going to call the other point x2, y2. Okay? So once you name the point, doesn't matter which one you call 1 and which one you call 2. And here is the formula. Okay? Now I'm going to substitute. So notice I'm going. On the numerator, I'm doing y2, which would be right here. Let me go in blue, different color. y2, which is 2. Notice there's a minus in it. Okay, minus y1, -3, over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to x2 next, right? x2, which is 1, minus part of the formula, and then for the x 1, oops, I meant to go like this. For the x1, we get negative 2. Okay, we simplify. It becomes 2 negatives make a positive, right? So it's 5 over negative times negative is positive 3. My slope is 5 over 3. Okay. All right, so the first thing we do is we name the points. I'm calling it point 1 and point 2. That means I'm going to do x1, y1, x2, y2. So we always write the formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, it's always the change in the y over the change in the x. If you put the x on top, it would be wrong. So I'm going to substitute in. I'm doing the y's first. Remember, 7 minus 3. Okay, 7 minus 3. And then I'm going to do the x's. I have 4 minus negative 1 over 4 minus negative 1. We simplify it. 7 minus 3 is 4 over 5. And so m equals 4 over 5. Now your work should look exactly like mine, meaning I want to see you start with the formula, substitute in, and simplify. 3 steps. Every time. If you don't write that formula right now for every problem that you do, you will not get it memorized. And since you're only really doing like 11 through 19 with the formula, you basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times you got to write it. That's what we do to get it memorized, okay? So your work should look exactly like mine. Okay, now, next one, you guys try on your own. Go. Now let's check our work. I'm calling the first point 1, the second point 2. Okay, I'm writing the formula. I always like it. I think it's better if you just do x1, y1, label it. x2, y2, then you keep it straight in your head. So now I'm doing 7 minus 5, right, over negative 1 minus 6. And we get 2 over negative 7. M equals, I don't know why they call it M, some French word, maybe mountain, maybe, but M represents slope, the steepness of the line. Okay, try it again. We're going to name each point. We'll start with the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2. We can name our points. Notice, oh, they went to, let's see if they did that last time. No, they didn't. Notice they're naming it. I'm going to do this one in 2 different ways. I'm going to call this point, well, they're calling this point 2. We'll do it their way first. Right? They called the first one point 2 and the second. So now I'm doing x2, oops, 2 is low, y2. When it's up, it means exponent. When it's down, it's just the point number. Okay? And now we're going to substitute in. This time I'm doing, the y is going here, 7 minus 1, and negative 8 minus 4. Okay? I simplify, it becomes 6 over negative 12, which it reduces to negative 1/2. Okay, I'm going to do it the other way this time. I'm going to call negative 8 comma 7. We'll call that point 1, and we'll call the other one 4 comma 1 point 2. So I'm doing m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I've got 1 minus 7 over 4 minus negative 8. So here you will notice I get negative 6 over positive 12. And that still reduces to negative 1 over 2. Got it? So it doesn't matter which one we call point 1 and point 2. They're both going to simplify to the same answer. Okay, vertical and horizontal lines. If I have something like y equals 2, right, I'm going to go 0, 1, 2. So I'm going 0 across, 2 up. Everybody gets it? It's going to look like this. Okay, my rise, to get from one point to the next, my rise is, I'm rising 0, and my run is 1. Let's say I go from here to here, is 1. So this simplifies to 0. So my slope for horizontal lines is always 0. Okay? Okay. For x equals negative 3, all right, so now I'm going to take 2 points on this line, right? Okay, I'll put them in blue so they're clear and easy to see. Right, any 2 points. And so my rise for this is 1, and my run is 0. Okay, and there is a rule that you may never have a 0 in the denominator. And when it is, we say it's undefined. The slope is undefined. Or we can say no slope. That is different from over here, which m equals 0 slope. Okay? This over here has no slope or is undefined because we have a 0 in that denominator. When over here, when I'm going from one point to the next, it's a rise of 0 and a run of 1. And the golden rule in math is, thou shalt not divide by 0. It's very difficult because I have the 10 commandments of math in my classroom, and that's the first commandment. Thou shalt not divide by 0. So here I have the 0 in the denominator, and that's never allowed. Okay? So vertical lines, the slope is undefined, or we say no slope, and horizontal lines, the slope is 0. They're just showing you right here. Same thing I'm doing. All right. So if I'm finding it with the formula, I'm going to use my formula. y2 minus y1. I'm still doing the same thing. If I get a 0 in the numerator, what are we going to say? You have to simplify that to 0 slope. I want to know that you know when 0 is in the numerator, it's a 0 slope. If you don't simplify that, I won't give you credit. I don't think you know the difference between 0 and undefined. If I get something and I end up here where 0 is in the denominator, I expect you to say undefined or no slope. Okay? Pause the recording if you'd like to take these notes. Okay? And that, my friends, is our lesson for the day.